Are you looking for ideas for using all of that adorable 6x8 pattern paper you bought from scrapbook.com? Hi, I'm Jess from jesscrafts.com, and I'm here to help you make the most of your crafty supplies and time. So let's get making. Today I have a 6x8 no scrap template. It makes 4 A2 size cards from one sheet of 6x8 paper with no scraps. I usually try to keep it to 2, but sometimes an idea strikes that just works and makes more cards, and I still like to share them. But like I said, generally I keep it to 2. Okay, today I have the Playful pattern paper collection, and I wanted to work with 2 different patterns. Usually for my pattern paper, I only use it as chunks on a card, and I don't really die cut from it very often, but I wanted to give that a shot today because, like many of you, I have lots of 6x8 paper, and it would be great to come up with some other ways of using it besides just as the backgrounds of cards. So today I'm going to use this blue sheet, which is double-sided, but I think I'm going to use it as a single-sided sheet. And this yellow paper is what I'm going to die cut from, and I'm going to die cut from this smaller dot side. It has a small side and a larger side. The small side is going to work better for the dies that I have. Look at how we should cut this pattern paper. You can find this template at jesscrafts.com. It'll tell you exactly how to cut your paper and then how to assemble your sketch, including what size to cut your mats. So I need some 2x4 inch pieces of paper. The first thing I'm going to do is cut this from the 6-inch side down to 4 inches. Then I have a 2x8, which I will cut to a 2x4, and those are the larger focal point rectangles. Then I need a bunch of 1/2-inch strips, and I'll get 2 more 2x4 rectangles. So I'm just following right along here. I'm on this part of the sketch. I find it easier to cut off the smaller pieces. So instead of trying to bring this to 1/2 inch, which would be so much harder and actually basically impossible with this paper cutter without using some Post-it note tape, I'm just going to measure 1/2 inch from the end. So starting at 8 inches, going to 7.5, then 7, then 6.5, and keep going in 1/2-inch increments till I get to the 4-inch mark, which is where I'm going to need to cut it in half again, and I'll show you. I'm down to a 4x4 piece of paper that I need to make into my 2 2x4 inch strips that are the main focal point for the other cards. So each of my cards gets this bigger rectangle and then some smaller rectangles that are like skinny little strips. And I'm going to cut some mats for those as well. You don't have to use mats, and in this case, if you wanted to lower the number of mats, I would say don't put mats on the back too, but maybe give your main focal point a mat, because that usually just makes it stand out a bit more. A lot of times I'll pull out some larger cardstock to make my mats, but in this instance, I want to use yellow mats to coordinate and pull in the yellow paper I'm going to be die cutting from. And also, this pack of A2 sized mats is going to be perfect because I need a lot of them to be 4 1/4 anyway, and this is already cut to that size. So I have it as 4 1/4, and then I can just start cutting my mats. And I'm going to need them to be, a couple of them I need at 3/4 inch. So that is for the 2 strips. You'll need 2 that are 3/4 inch by 4.5, and then, or 4 1/4. And then you're going to need 1 that is 4 1/4 by 2 1/4. So it may not work out perfectly with no scraps here, but we're about to find out. Okay, so you're gonna get like a 1/4 inch scrap. That's pretty cool that we were able to be so efficient with our cardstock and our pattern paper today. So I have strips for cardstock mat strips for some of these guys, and I have one for this. So I'll keep going till I have enough mats for all 4 cards. I've taken all 6 of the butterfly dies from the Butterflies 2 collection from scrapbook.com, and I'm going to die cut them as the embellishments for my card. Having die cut them out, I think I actually want to use the larger scale of the pattern for my focal point rectangle. If you look at them, I kind of feel like they stand out. The yellow butterflies stand out a little bit more off of this paper because it's a little less busy being spread out versus this one where there's two small scale patterns together and they don't stand out as much. I'm also wondering if maybe I could stamp the sentiment directly onto the pattern paper because I chose the larger scale side of the pattern. I think if I were to choose the smaller scale, the words were more likely to be lost. So I'm thinking I might try to find a more like bold pattern so that I could stamp directly on, or maybe do some die cutting. I have this really bold high from the Scrapbook.com Card Makers Essentials stamp set. This was sold as part of a bundle for Cards for Kindness. So if you like to donate your cards, Scrapbook.com's Cards for Kindness campaign is a great place. They actually redistribute the cards to several different organizations. So if you want to have a bigger impact but don't have the ability to like send cards all over the place to different organizations, sending your cards to Scrapbook.com's Cards for Kindness campaign is an excellent way to increase your reach in terms of the people you're serving with your cards. Okay, I forgot to condition this. This is a brand new stamp and it's a pretty big and bold stamp. So it's definitely one that benefits from a little bit of conditioning, like rubbing an eraser or something like that on it, but also just stamping it a few times does the trick, and that's why it's perfect that it is in a stamp positioner tool. I'm also using Lawn Fawn Rainforest ink because I really like a tone-on-tone in stamping, but I also really like colored stamping. I will stamp in black plenty of times. It is a very easy choice, but in this card, since I really only have two colors going on, the yellow and the blue, I didn't want to bring in the black. I just really wanted to stick in that color palette, and I think it will complement them a bit more. I guess there's some white going on too, technically, because there's little white dots. I can use the lines of my grid mat to make sure that I'm lining up these strips of paper straight on my card and make sure my card is opening the right way, because it certainly would not be the first time that I accidentally glued my card backwards. I try when I even do those little mistakes to not delete them from recording, as much as it can be a little bit embarrassing sometimes, just to reassure you that we all do that. Okay, so I want to add this overlapping, but it's gonna kind of come down a little bit here. I just want to support it with a little chunk of scrap cardstock, and then I'll glue my focal panel down. I chose 3 butterflies because in general, making an odd cluster of things is ideal. And the butterfly die cut 6 of them, so I can cut 1 set and have enough for 2 cards, which was pretty cool. When I was assembling the rest of the cards, I accidentally stamped one black, and I thought it'd be kind of cool to show you how much of a difference that keeping that tone on tone makes, because now in this one, like, the black really stands out. And I like to just take a minute to explain those kind of things to you, just because I think that's how I learned how to card make, is just watching someone else do a lot of color matching. Probably watching Christina Warner back in the day. That was like probably the first card making YouTuber that I found, and she just shared so much about how she mixed patterns and all that kind of thing. So that's what I tried to share that on my channel as well. If you found this video inspiring, here's another video where you can find more ideas for enjoying your crafty time and supplies. Let me know you like this video with a share to your crafty community, subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss the next template or tutorial, and check the video description for product links. See you in the next video.